Welcome everyone to ToutSuite. I'm with Steve Reynolds here, Reynolds Family Winery, Napa Valley. And I just thought this is a great time to ask Steve a few questions. I've known Steve for a while. He's an interesting guy and he's got great stories and he is the real deal. And
wait, before we get too heavy, can we just have a
let's toast.
All right, we got to start the show off right. Welcome, you guys.
Yeah, maybe
Welcome,
toasting at home.
Yeah. We're going to get into wine. We're fixing to get there, aren't we?
We are fixing to get there.
And I know you're the host of this, but David and I have a little bit of a tequila problem, and we fix it with wine, but we continue to enjoy our problem, so we really don't want it fixed, but the wine's a good secondary.
It's a problem that I think probably a lot of you out there share, and over time.
So we're going to have to actually pour wine now, aren't we?
Yeah,
go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's right. So I just wanted to start this off by asking Steve, thank you. I was looking at some pictures just before we came on, and it's pictures of Steve getting started, and it's in like this, he had to work with this old barn that looked like it didn't have refrigeration. I just saw it briefly before we got on, so I didn't have a chance to really go into it. But these pictures of him getting started, and I started to ask the question, and I thought, no, you know what, I'm going to save this for when we're on the air. And, you get into this so many years ago, and for you it was 1995. You get into this, and I always think, there's a time that you wish you would have that person behind you, that rich aunt or uncle or someone that could, lend you that money or give you that money so you could go forward and just buy all the things that you need. And you don't have that, and you didn't have that.
No.
So I want to know.
I knew Guido that would cut my fingers off, but he did lend me money, so that was kind of cool.
But are you glad?
You know what? I tell you, I see it often that we both have seen this, right? There are people that get into the business that within 2 or 3 years are on the cover of the Spectator or something, and they giveth and they taketh away, and I'm very pleased that it's been that. We just joked about that 19 years and like I'm the new fresh thing in the wine business, right? 19 years later.
And getting noticed.
But it takes time, but I think in this business, there's definitely a hazing period. You have to earn your stripes along the way.
You do.
And, it's actually, Susan, could I bring up these pictures for people?
Oh, yeah.
All right, here we go. Technologically challenged, but we're going to give this a try here. Down we go. All right. So, for those of you, if I click on this, will they be able to see it? All right, so here we go. The young
fermenting babies.
Fermenting babies.
Not legal in the US.
That's the secret ingredient in the wine, right? So we started in the garage, just like a lot of guys did. And you're right, we had no stainless steel, no mega pumps. You can actually see the carboy on the left. That's how I cooled things down, right? You'd freeze those and submerge it out of necessity. And anyway, so that's Cameron, who's now 15 years old and has his driver's permit, and now, therefore, I can drink during this show and feel safe about getting home. And so I'll flick through a few of these with you guys just to kind of see the dream, where we started.
And while we're flicking back to these other pictures, which you've got to see, tell me about oceanography. You had a past in oceanography. Yeah. How does that fit into all this?
Yeah, we go super back, way back. Hey, guys.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you? Good. I originally went to school to be an oceanographer. And I was going to be the next Jacques Cousteau, farm the bottom of the sea. And so for 3 years, thank you.
Keep going.
We're technically challenged here.
So basically, blocking everybody. So, after a few years, I actually took a little job in Alaska. Worked up there for 3 different seasons as a commercial diver. And I realized it was definitely not what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to have kids and a family, and living on a boat with a bunch of smelly guys you made great money, but it was terrible. So came back and applied to dental school and got in, but the whole time this winemaking thing was definitely something that intrigued me.
So you liked winemaking to some degree before you even got into dental school, before you?
Yeah, so I grew up when I was in 6th grade, we moved to Germany. So my dad was an electronics guy. So, I kind of got that European, food and wine was a big deal back then over there, and it caught on in the States later on. But, I grew up that wines and beer were at the table when you were 12 or 13 years old. And, I
The
hate to
classic
admit, yeah,
European family.
I was going to the pub when I was 15 and 14, and that was just normal. That's what you did. And so you learn an appreciation for the art of liquor early on.
Sure,
and
sure.
So that's kind of the past. But then we started to come up to Napa often. We had some great friends in the business, particularly the Renterias. My wife was roommates with Denise.
Oh, that's right.
So we were up here all the time on weekends hanging out with them, and it was just through those visits up here regularly that we fell in love and decided we were just going to give it a go.
And so was it, but then you still went to dental school from there.
I was a dentist. I was a practicing dentist at that time when
Okay.
when we came up here. So I
Okay.
was practicing. That was my source of livelihood.
Where were you practicing? Were you in Southern Cal? Were you Northern Cal?
No, I had a practice in the Central Valley, so the other grape region, the big grape region, and but only about an hour away. And we were over here on the weekends, work over there. And in 1994, when Susan and I got engaged, or 94, 95, we decided we wanted to have a break from both families, have our own place we called our own. And that's where Napa came in.
Okay, let me ask this.
We have some guests at the last minute.
Oh,
I gave them a
Awesome.
glass,
Oh,
but you gotta get-
fantastic. Keep talking. I'm
you
going
gonna
to pour.
Okay, pour.
I'm going to jump off camera
Thank
here
you.
for a second. Hey, guys.
So I got more questions for him. If people can still hear Steve from where we are right now, and I guess you've got camera on him.
Yeah?
We talked about, you getting here, we've talked about dentist, and that always surprises me because I think if I had an opportunity, would I have been winemaking, would I have gone dentistry? And that's a tough one. I don't know. I'm glad where it ended up. But let me ask you this. Knowing that, who was your big help? Who was the person that you could say, besides all you do, besides you and Susan doing all this hard work, who was it behind you guys?
In the wine side of things, or from, I think family support. My dad was huge. He was very proud of it. I think my dad he loved this industry. He would have quit in a heartbeat being a semiconductor guy to do the wine thing. So, I knew I had the blessing from his side. The Renterias were very instrumental, from the farming side. And at that point, Oscar was coming in to take over and work with his father. So that was neat. I saw that growth. But, as far as once I started making wines and started going back to Davis to take classes and learn things more in a proper fashion, one of the guys I have to say that I got to spend some time with today, because we're having this great panel next week for a bunch of young somms, and you actually should have been on it, but it was Anthony Bell. Studied under
really?
Andrei Telechev for BV Bellevue, and when I came to the Valley, there were a few people that when I got in trouble, I reached out to a few people that I had met, and he was one of those guys that just, in his soft-spoken way, and you know him well, that just come on over, just everything.
You could ask him anything.
Anything, and just I didn't understand some of the basics. Sometimes you got to physically do it.
Right.
You can read about baking cookies, but till you throw them on the sheet and you pull them out of the oven,
Right. No, agreed.
it's not the
you
same.
got to do it.
And he was one of those guys, and there were several along the way, but he really comes to mind for sure.
Yeah. What's taken you from where you started and how you made wines then to where we are now? Because the nose on this is incredible. I want to know.
Cheers.
Thank you. I want to know from there to here. How do we get there?
Yeah, it's funny. This panel that I'm discussing next week it's interesting because this panel that we're going to bring in some young somms from all over.
This is kick
Thank you.
ass.
It's exactly that question. How did
This
we
is-
get here from the 60s, 70s, 80s? How have wines evolved? And we all go through it.
This is really nice. Really nice.
Which is why, by the way, I'm digressing here, but there is an auction coming up next week, which is part of this Somm program we're putting together. It ends magically a week from Saturday at the premier Napa Valley barrel auction. And David, myself, and Freddie Constant are putting together an incredible auction lot, which will be fun.
This guy has put it all together. All we had to do was send him some of our wine. He's done it all. So you know what?
It's a love fest here on TV.
It's
That's
a
what
love
we're
fest.
doing.
It's-
That's what we're doing.
I'm-
That's how it is. When you move to Napa, it's sort of like Disneyland. all your dreams do come true.
Yeah, it's a brotherhood.
Tinkerbell does dance around.
John and Stacy.
Hey, John and Stacy.
Hey, yeah, I had a question. Steve, were you sourcing your grapes at the time?
You know, the very
Great
first,
question.
very great question. We moved up here, so we planted our vineyard in '95, and we had what are called green growing vines, or basically vines that had already been grafted and raised at a nursery. So it was sort of new at that time. So we put these vines in '95, which meant we did get fruit within 3 years. And so our first wines that we commercially made were in 1998, and very tiny amounts. So 99 is technically what you'll read about us as our releases are on our bottles, everyone said, because the tasting room opened in 99, so about 15 years ago. But the very first release was 1998, and we had no label, no real identity, didn't know what we were really doing. So this bottle that I actually have out here on the table was our first label. You know, we thought if you go into a wine shop, why would you pick up a bottle of Reynolds? You've never heard of us. There's so many great labels, things that draw you to them, and we thought, what could we do? What could we do to draw you to pick this bottle up, get in the cart, go to the cash register, actually get home? Because we thought if we could actually have you open a bottle, you might become a believer. Because we thought if the packaging showed that we cared, maybe you'd see that the wines were all about all that simple handcrafted sort of a style.
You know
so
what?
that's it.
Okay, he's making me jump around here. So, but we're going to get back to this. So I will force him back into answering these things.
In other words, yes, the first fruit was purchased, but
See?
immediately after that,
This takes work.
immediately after that, I got off subject. Immediately after that, our estate came in, but we've always bought fruit. So we are about, at this point, 60% owned fruit and 40% contracted, which I'd say would be, I mean, you're pretty much all estate, I'd guess, but I'd say vast majority of the wineries, wouldn't you say, source
Oh yeah, no, absolutely,
good portion of their
absolutely.
fruit? So.
No, and so I want to get back to some questions still that I had that are not answered completely. Okay,
I'm avoiding it.
I know you are. Who other than Oscar Renteria and Anthony Bell? I'm not sure you said before that. Who else besides that? Really kind of
Couldn't help me out.
Yeah, a backbone. I mean,
I can think of several guys. I had to make wines my first couple years over at the Laird facility.
sure.
And there were a number of winemakers over there along the way.
Ready to help?
Oh yeah, and I think it's neat because one thing that this valley is very good at, as we all know, is if you're down and out, guys will pull up in a tractor and let you use
Absolutely.
their equipment.
No, that's true.
And Paul Hobbs and a bunch of his team were over there. Let's see, Niels Venge. So there's a bunch of guys that I got to know early on, and that's really where I cut my teeth. I made every mistake known to man. I didn't even know what dissolved oxygen was.
You know what?
In a wine. So you show up and you're a complete rookie sitting on the bench, and you're surrounded by all these legends like yourself.
Right.
And
Dissolved oxygen, for those at home making wine,
it's oxygen dissolved in wine.
and there you have that.
It's very complicated. We try to make it sound really technical, but
Okay, so then another question going forward, because I mean, it's hard to get into the sky, really get to the bottom of it. How do we get from where you started? The first vintage, was that 95? 98? 98 first vintage?
Yeah, so 98 was the first vintage that we actually released. So we moved there, we planted the vineyards, we got involved, I started taking classes, going back to Davis, changing career from one to the other.
How do we get from the wines that were made then to the finesse that's in this glass right now?
That's a very good question. I think I feel truly blessed that I was older when I went back to Davis, because I think it helped me question. I saw fillings fall out that I thought what I learned as a young dentist, that, you're this young doctor and you think you know it all, right? And then you get out in private practice and stuff fails. And so I questioned things along the way. I noticed what I made didn't match what the book said it was supposed to be like. the books were not matching where winemaking was going. The books were written for the Mondavi, sort of more, not that Mondavi doesn't make very beautiful handcrafted wines now and has always.
But more textbook.
It was more textbook style because it just, but because the books always lag compared to what's really happening out there.
And don't you find they're trying to bring everything in safe?
Absolutely.
They want to bring it in safe.
And you know, you're trying to, you know, at that point, there's so much history, you know. I could get into the history of Napa and how great the Mondavis were and everything else, but for what I wanted to do, for small handcrafted wines, I wanted to be cutting edge. I wanted to do things that, I wanted to go back to actually dimpling the crust of the pie and not be Marie Callender's. I wanted to be that little pie shop that still made things one at a time. I wanted cutting edge. I wanted to try, and I still push the envelope. You know that.
Oh, I know, you do, more than anybody I've ever seen. So, you've gone from starting wines to this. This is absolutely awesome. And the nose on this is incredible. The mouth is just, it's so full. It's got such a great mid-palate and great finish to it. Where do you want to take Reynolds from here? Where do you go?
You know, I think I want to stay the course where I am now. I love where I am. I don't want to grow necessarily.
You don't want to be one of these big guys.
No. I like having my hands in a bunch of different things. I enjoy making wines for other people. We make a few other labels, a few other brands for some people. I like that because it opens the door to new properties. I'm able to meet with other winemakers and consult. I get to travel and do different things along the way. So to me, that's cool.
The trick question in that is, if he would have said, you know, yes, I want to grow to this big winery, show's over. This is the guy that is more involved with high-end quality. I know from my conversations with him, it's always about how can we make this wine, and these are your words. I'm on the phone and he says, I just want something really voluptuous. You know, can we put this thing together where the wine is just really voluptuous, really sexy? And that is what this wine is. So now I see where your words do take this. I mean, you know, once again, I know you're the real deal, and this is what I love.
Well, you know, there's so many things that people don't know that goes on behind the scenes of a wine.
There's a question on tweets here, and from John. No last name for some reason. Couple of questions from him actually. First one is, would it be Appellation 16?
Oh, okay.
And then second question from the same guy. Do you use Mega Purple? Do you use
Mega Red, Mega Purple?
That's right. And so here you go. Have it.
Wow, John. Well done. Mega Purple, Mega Red. The behind the scenes. We are talking behind the scenes now. So to answer the first question, that is another project that we have, which is called Appellations. The overall brand is called Appellations. So we make a wine that's a blend of a number of different vineyards, one from each sub-appellation of Napa. In 2002, there were 13 recognized growing regions in Napa. What a cool number. So we came out with a wine that had 1 ton of grapes from 13 famous vineyards. So in this bottle were vineyards from Camus, Duckhorn, Pine Ridge, the Gras, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, we joke and say it's amazing we can keep a cork in the bottle because there's so many egos that want to pop out of it. But what's happened is, over the years, Napa has approved new regions, new growing regions. And these are designated to help consumers to understand flavor profiles from various parts of the valley. Mm-hmm. You might find that you always love these Stag's Leap vineyards, and every winery that produces a wine from Stag's Leap is what you like. So it helps you to guide, you know, your palate certain directions. So the long-winded answer, yes, 16 is coming out. It's in barrel, and we will be bottling it. 15 is the current release. There is no Mega Purple or Mega Red in either of those wines. I cannot tell a lie. I have used it. I believe my mentor on that, we've all had to use it. And what it is a concentrate, everybody. So it's like food coloring made from natural grape products. It's a concentrate of grapes. And if you have a light year and you need that little extra something something, it helps to add a little color in some years. The problem is, like anything, for every reaction there's an equal and opposite reaction. So every time you add something not perfectly natural, there's going to be something, and there are people that do notice. So you have to use these things very sparingly and only when absolutely necessary. So.
No.
I'm sure you've never used Mega.
Known as Petit Verdot.
There you go.
That's the
mother
India ink of wine.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, there's so many things that go into a bottle of wine and so many options, and I think the top winemakers try to let the vineyard do the speaking. And there's very rarely does anyone that basically is doing high caliber stuff have the need for any of those things. But when you're hired to make other products, occasionally you got to dig into your toolbox. And I think it's like doctoring or anything else. 99% of it's the common cold, but
do you see a
know what to
time
do.
where the Reynolds family wines will sort of, if you will, maybe this is the wrong word, sort of choke out the custom crush people that you have now? Oh, this is probably poison, yeah, because they're watching.
I refuse to answer that on the grounds that I may lose clients.
Yeah, we'll save that one.
Well, we are over our capacity at the winery. You know, we are one of the random audits of Napa Valley, and there is a part of our local government that is randomly auditing wineries to make sure we are not making more than we should. At the same time, they're being fairly kind in the fact that they understand they'd probably rather let the facilities that exist produce a little bit more than to build a whole bunch of new wineries. So they're working with us, so we're going through that process. So, you know, we may have a little growth in our size for stability, but my size of wines that I produce, I really don't necessarily want to make a whole lot more, maybe a few small kind of cool little culty things. But, you know, there's some new experiments we tried this year that I welcome all of you. We have a new wine called Steadfast, which is my new very cool wine. You have to come see it. I mean, I've been putting flowers on bottles now for a long time.
Matter of fact, can I just leap to that, since we have to jump around stuff? I wanted to get to the flowers and the label. And how did that come about? What led this? I mean, it's a beautiful label. I love seeing the flowers.
Yeah, so earlier I was saying, so that was really it. We wanted to basically have a label that people would notice. And we actually, my wife and I were looking for wedding invitations, and I walked into a card store, and I saw these handmade cards that was just plain cardstock with exactly this kind of label glued onto it. And she was like a calligrapher, I guess, with pencil, and it just said Napa Valley. It was so simple, so simply elegant, and that's a great way to look at it, right? My mother used to always say, you know, things that are simply elegant stand the test of time.
Right.
So I grew up hearing that, and you know, in the end, that's really what we wanted our packaging to be about. There were so many, this was sort of the era of one-legged dog and yellowtail and all these kind of every funky cool thing, which is tempting, but if you're gonna put your name on it and you hope your kids will take it someday, you want it to be classic. So that's really where the flower thing came from. We wanted it to be handcrafted. Once we got beyond our initial release, then it was a problem, because this is only 720 cases produced of this
I was
reserve,
going to ask you.
which means over 9,000 flowers, over 9,000 handmade little labels that are glued on by hand,
That's how this is done?
all done by hand. So you see, if you want to stay married, you quickly learn to have an alternative way of putting on other labels. So anyway,
You know what? Could I have
a little
some more?
poquito más.
Let's say hi to Glenn.
Hi, Glenn.
Hey, Glenn.
Joel Morgan has a question. Okay. So Joel Morgan has a question.
Hey, Joel.
Hey, Joel. Would you say that your background in dentistry has given you insight into the different taste and mouthfeel of wine? Or does that come even into play when you are making and tasting wine?
I've never thought of that. That's a really good question.
No, Joel.
You know, I don't know. I think mouthfeel and texture comes just purely through experience. I mean, I understand, obviously, head and neck anatomy, taste buds, different taste buds and things, how things interact. I think it's got to be more just it's got to be like throwing a football. The more you throw it, the probably the better you get.
Wouldn't you say that as you sit down and taste wines, when you're sitting down at the blending table, you've become more adept at picking stuff out, where maybe years ago you might say, oh yeah, okay, you know, I taste the cherries in that, or I taste the tar tobacco. Now you more readily can taste other things. So it really is, it's experience, wouldn't you say?
I would definitely say it's experience. I think it's trial and error, but I think now it's interesting because as we did, we had a beautiful lunch together and putting our barrel together. I mean, instantly.
Way too beautiful lunch.
It was, and I think the lunch lasted 6 hours in the end, but I don't think we went back to work, but don't tell work that.
Where?
We started at Rutherford Bar and Grill.
Yeah. And then we ended with
Progressed into Yountville for a little cigar.
cigars.
And then
I don't really recall.
after that. I think a cab after that.
Maybe a cab.
Might have been a cab.
Yeah.
But
A cab or a cab?
yeah.
I think so. But would you say, so going back to Joel's question, because I want to make sure that I answer that for Joel. Background in chemistry, do you think it's given you really any insight?
Chemistry definitely helped. I would say, there's science behind this. We're doing, for example, we are doing the first trials, one of the first trials. I can't say I'm absolutely the first. Probably, I would like to think that I'm probably the first guy that really took it seriously in the United States, trials of sulfite-free wines. And it's coming like a freight train, and some really neat experiments using ozone, which is the O3 molecule, right? Unstable, used for cleaning things. And really what it's doing is we're taking the grapes from the vineyard and we put them in an ozonation fumigation.
Oh, that's right.
Room.
That was that
You were there.
container.
Yeah.
I saw that.
I GoPro'd, you were on it.
Yeah.
And so anyway, these guys came to town. This originated in Italy, and they'd been working on it for a couple years over there. And what it is basically you put the grapes into an ozone environment and it kills all bacteria. So the grape essentially comes in with nothing growing on the skin, nothing to compete with just the juice and just say virgin yeast. So you sort of have perfect grapes and perfect yeast, because when you throw a bunch of stuff into a fermenter, there's bacteria, there's mold, there's fungus, there's everything else that's trying to eat the same food. So it competes, so it creates, sometimes maybe that's a good thing, creates flavors, right? And those flavors could be something we all look after. But what's neat about this is in the process of ozoning the grapes, it doubles the antioxidant level of the wine. So now you've got a wine that's twice as healthy. The wines are super fruit expressive.
You've knocked out the sulfides.
Knocked out the sulfites, so it's going to be a big breakthrough.
So then if you knock out the sulfides, then you're ready to introduce a clean yeast and probably have it finish real well. This gets
Exactly
weird,
right.
but Yeah.
Super strong yeast.
No stuck
Completely-
fermentations.
No stuck fermentations. Really cool stuff. So there's so much going on. I feel so blessed in the sense that I got to learn a lot about the history of winemaking, but I feel like I've been a part of a lot of the major breakthroughs over the years. And certainly having a little bit of chemistry background, if nothing else, helped me to understand winemaking books that I've
Sure.
read over the years. So
Yeah.
total geek. I think I was the only chemistry fraternity guy. Is there anybody else who's in a
Not
chemistry
me.
fraternity? No.
Not me.
Yeah. So
Steve,
yes.
so you started as the original winemaker. Are you still the winemaker today, or do you assist?
I am still the winemaker. I have Arturo, who works with me, who's my assistant winemaker. I'm looking at you on TV. I still am the lead winemaker, and I enjoy that role. That's really where I feel I have my strengths. The road takes me off, as it does for all of us, to travel to sell our little wares. And but my heart's really in the winemaking side of it. Good question.
That's great.
A lot of questions coming in.
There's
Lot of
questions coming in.
We have to keep going.
All right, we've got bottles. We
Let's
can
say
just
hi
keep
to
cracking.
Glenn. I see Glenn there. This is the guy on your screen.
Hey, Glenn.
Is this Glenn?
And Glenn?
Hey, Steve.
How are you, buddy?
All right.
Glenn, where are you?
Nashville.
Awesome.
Oh,
Gonna be out your way soon.
Yeah, I hope so.
Get to go to the Best Sellers event.
That's good. Working on that wine dinner.
Perfect. Any questions from you, Glenn, or are you just chilling and drinking and kicking back?
Looks like Glenn's just chilling.
I'm chilling and drinking a 2008 cab of yours.
Awesome. Thank you. And by the way, I think there might be a David Arthur bottle somewhere. I saw.
oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that.
Thank
See?
you. Thank
That's
you.
tough
Come
to
on.
get here.
It's an 06.
Okay, I know that wine. And thank you. From John. What do you think of the Corvin? I'm using it right now to extract my taste of the 14.
So the Corbin is the machine that keeps the oxygen off the wine, isn't it?
Yeah, it's this
Okay.
argon.
Yeah, I have
silver.
one at the winery. I just want to make sure it was the same thing.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. You know, I obviously, if you're going to keep a wine open for a while, or you have an older wine you want to revisit, I think it's fantastic. I think wines do need a little oxygen. If you're going to consume a wine, like I know I have a hard time letting a wine get old, so it usually goes bye-bye. I know you share that love that I do too, but I think it's a fantastic system. We actually just got one at the winery. So we're going to start pulling open some more of our library stuff so we can keep it open for multiple days when people just want to jump in and taste little things. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah, interesting little piece of equipment.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many little things popping up. It's awesome.
I have one at the winery. When I use it, it's great. A lot of times I just forget. So all of a sudden I'll see one of the people at the winery using the Corvin. And my cousin Karen was the opening marketing person for Corvin. So I bought 10.
So hang on. How many are still in the closet?
You know what? I've been
Christmas gifts?
Christmas gifts. I've been doling them out.
Perfect.
Here and there. You've already got one. You don't need.
So Easter Bunny hides them all over.
No, they're all in one place. They're all in this one that I want to raid. Okay. Mike says, "Hey Steve, Mike Meyer in Houston. Have you done very much? Yeah. Have you done very much co-fermentation, and do you see it being used more in the future?"
Co-fermenting.
I think co. I think co.
Yeah.
Not co.
Do you do a lot of co-ferments, field blends, or do you?
Before I had my head screwed on it all, I used to go out and pick everything at once. I mean, one variety would be ready, and I would just go get the whole vineyard, bring it in, put it all in the tank.
And off you went.
And off I went. And it really was through different winemakers that I found out that was the worst thing I could be doing. So.
Yeah, and then that is the problem right there, and that's kind of answers the question. Hey, Mike, by the way, glad you tuned in. That's awesome. You know, even the same varietal, the same grape growing on the same row ripens differently on one side to the other. So to try to co-ferment is difficult because you want to pick for ultimate ripeness. And, you know, we'll pick a vineyard several times, and we'll pick the sunny side, let the shade side hang a little bit longer. You're going for, everything's got to be perfect. And so to co-ferment is difficult. I like to let each little vineyard or section express itself, taste it, and then after about a year, get through mallow, see what it tastes like, and pull the best together.
I agree. Get those things separate, get those little blocks brought in separately, get those guys down to barrels, and then after a year or two, that becomes your spice rack. And if you co-ferment, that decision's made. You can no longer go back and separate those guys.
And sometimes you're lucky. The chocolate ends up in the peanut butter and you're rich, but it doesn't happen very often. So
I was going to. There was the Saturday Night Live commercial on that one. Yeah, did I get stuck in your
Now you know why I hang out with him.
Yeah, Joel Morgan. Where does Steve see the role negotiant-made wines going in the future? It would seem they are becoming very useful in terms of using overstock grapes and juice from wineries to make interesting wines.
I think that's going to be a huge part of our future. The thing is, it's going to be questionable. Because, for example, we just came out of a very low yield situation where there wasn't a lot of product on the market. I mean, we didn't have leftovers, and in those years, you're stuck. So I think when there's abundant crop, you'll get lots of these cool, 10-legged dog labels that show up.
Say a 2012 vintage.
Right.
Yeah.
2000. So we're coming back into it. Overall, in the world right now, I think California last year was the only place that actually had decent grapes. So from a having bulk left over point of view, it's not a like that.
The hand that comes in from the side.
that hand. So it's going to be. I think that it will continue, but I do think it's going to be something that'll be spotty. And from a consumer side, you'll have to definitely know your years, follow the guys that are actually producing it, because it will be inconsistent. But I do think it'll be here forever.
I think you feel like I do. I mean, hey, do we want people to drink our wines first? Of course. But I think we're both happy to know that people are drinking wines. Whether they've moved, we say all the time it takes a lot of beer to make great wine.
Right. Or you got to crash a few Hugos before you get your Porsche.
Right. Whoa.
Steve, Dave David was saying earlier, as far as you're looking to dial in each year something new, try to do something different. This could be a question for both of you. Do you think it's a combination of vineyard management, maybe sourcing different grapes, something inside aging, fermentation? What do you strive for each year? What are you looking for to change to make the next vintage something different?
Thank you. I think that's a great question.
Yeah, it's all of that. I mean, it starts in the vineyard, for sure. I say this every time. If you don't have great grapes, you do not have great wine. Then you get mega purple. Then you get liquid concentrates of oak, etc. Then it becomes a chemical experiment, which is what we all try to avoid, quite honestly. So, we babysit that stuff. I mean, most people don't know you have satellite imaging of heat coming off of the leaves, moisture probes in the soil. We babysit this stuff. It is amazing, the farming side of what goes into it. We're just learning stuff about why wines taste better and what we're doing in the vineyard and how they correlate. I mean, right now, I just went to a thing up at Meadowwood from ETS that they put on, and it was finally figuring out that color molecules and tannin texture molecules are linking to create what we're tasting and feeling in our mouth. And we're just figuring this out, that anthocyanins and tannins are linking and why wines are expressive and rich. We're just now figuring this stuff out. So it's actually trying to link the vineyard to the finished product in the bottle, which is really where we are right now, is figuring out how we can farm better to put better product in the bottle as an end result.
Not easy.
Thank you.
Not easy.
It's not easy, and you know what? And you think you get it right, and Mother Nature takes a left, and you took a right, and you're trying to react. There's years. What was it? We all leafed and thought we were home. We had a home run,
a couple
and we
years
all
ago.
pulled. Yeah,
Sunshine came out and
all of a sudden nailed us for 2 weeks with 105 degrees,
Was
and
that
we'd
2
all
years ago?
pulled leaves. It was a few years back, yeah. So we all thought, let's take the suntan lotion off and let's let these guys have some sun and let's ride it home. And then all of a sudden, no, not that easy.
No, surprise.
Yeah, surprise.
I have, this reminds me of an old story. I have a friend, and you guys might relate to this, I have a friend that started in the wine business when I did, and farming business. And he would worry about every little, too much sun or too much fog or rain, and he worried about it so much. And I finally said to him, I said, unless you're going to put a tent over your entire vineyard, there's nothing we can do. I said, but part of the beauty in this is what Mother Nature gives to one, she gives to all. And if we all suffer, we're all in together. If it's a great year, we're all in. And you go back and forth like this, but you can't.
Yeah.
You can't fight against it. Is there something here that?
Last question.
We're going to wrap this up. I know we're running long, guys.
Sorry. Okay, this is from John. I love this. Do you think global warming will affect Napa Valley wines in our lifetime? Nice, John. Man.
Would you like to start that one, or would you like?
Well, I think, I'd love to say no. Of course, am I sure that what will happen? No, I don't know. I do hate some of the pictures that I am seeing when I see what's happening to the ice melt. It does freak me out, and you'll hear some stories about it raising the sea level 6 feet, and it's crazy. How it will affect our wines? We may be closer to the beach. That's
Yeah.
all I know.
I think it's a great question. I think first of all we need to get our hands around whether what's going on. I always look at when I hear the global warming thing. This is just me. It's the warmest year since 1874.
Right.
You go, okay, so we had the same weather in 1874. Does that mean we're getting warmer? It was the same.
You know what?
No, anyway. But I get the sea level and stuff. I think our valley's changing for sure. People are planting bigger reds further south, which for us is cooler, and the breeze is coming off of, but I think our farming techniques have changed a great deal as well. We've learned various clones. I mean, if you look back at historically at Napa Valley, honestly, we had to overcome, and I thank Tim Mondavi for this today because he taught me a great deal. We went through Prohibition, and basically through Prohibition and coming out of Prohibition, we had fortified wines. So we were basically that stuff that warmed you up when you were out working in the fields and you were cold. And then for fine wines, you went to France because Prohibition drove us that direction. And it took a long time, and it wasn't until the Mondavis and a few pioneers brought quality wines, dry quality wines, back to California. I learned a lot sitting on this panel today. So, it's interesting. I think wine is always evolving and changing. Our valley's changing, but so as you learned with ozone and everything else, I think technology, with the way Mother Nature's changing, we've got a lot of cool stuff ahead of us.
Do you think global warming is taking care of like our extreme drought and then our extreme wet? Because I remember, it wasn't that many years back to me, we had the so-called back-to-back 100-year floods.
Right.
You have that, and then you have this. So is global warming causing the extreme shifts?
It seems like it. That's sort of seems to be the answer for it. But then I watched a thing probably about 4 months ago that there were two panelists discussing global warming, reality, not reality, and they had the pros and the cons. And it was tough. I was stuck in the middle on that one because, one guy would argue one side. So the way I look at it is, we're dealt with the cards we have right now. Well, we're all kind of planning for it. I'm going to hand my son my little black book on winemaking, and by that time he might have to deal with it, but hopefully not for me in the meantime.
Let Cameron handle it.
Let Cameron handle it. So anyway, I know we're supposed to wrap it up. We ran long tonight, but I thank you guys for tuning in tonight and having a little glass with us and sipping with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
And by the way, before we get off the air,
Pleasure.
Mr. Long, will you hold it for just a moment? Sit
Yes.
right here.
What are we doing?
I have a surprise for him. Hold on.
What? What is this?
You thought it would be about tequila, didn't you?
Oh, I was hoping for this. I'm not kidding. I was hoping for this. Is this Drink American? Yes.
There we go.
This is great. And, if this wasn't a family show, I would change right now. But I want to keep you liking me, so I'm not going to. Thank you, pal.
Thank you, sir.
This is awesome. And, what a pleasure. What
Thank
a pleasure.
you.
You bring a lot to it.
Thank
and
you.
And you are. You continue to be the real deal.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And it's because of friends like you that have gotten me there, so I appreciate it. So thank you guys for tuning in. And when you're out in Napa next time,
Come see us.
come see us. Well, if we're not at the winery, we're at the local Mexican bar, I can assure you that. So anyway, thanks you guys.
Let's tip a few. Okay, thank you. Good
Cheers.
night.
We're signing out.